We start with our stories now. In a 7-member Supreme Court panel presided over by Chief Justice Sophia Kufu has shut down findings of the sole Judgment Debt Commissioner, Justice Yawapel, on a Supreme Court judge himself, who is also a Supreme Court judge himself, on conclusions he reached when his commission considered the cases Alfred Woyome versus AG and Sky Consort versus Ghana Post. The Supreme Court says the recommendations of the sole Judgment Debt Commissioner sought to give interpretation to a decision of a court, and that amounted to a breach of Article 125 and 127 of the 1992 Constitution, which does not permit the decision of a court to be derogated upon or varied by another body in Ghana except the court itself. We'll be reaching our reporter, Seloma Menya, who's following this story shortly, and he'll give us some updates on what he's gathered so far regarding this very issue. Away from that story, we head straight to the Ashanti region, where Minister for the Interior, Asiedu-Dartey, says government is committed to improving conditions in Ghana's prisons. Speaking to my colleague, William Evansinkum, the Interior Minister noted government will also construct 2 hospitals for the prison service.
The manifesto of the MPP deals with the prison service, the police service, indeed all other security services together. The welfare of those security personnel is very important. That's why we are talking of, in our manifesto, of building hospitals, 2 hospitals for the prison. We're also talking of regeneration of barracks, national redevelopment of the barracks. And that way is supposed to make sure that they are comfortable. You just heard me talk about the fact that there is 400% increase in the goods and services that we allocated to National Peace Council. Let me assure you that it's across board. As we talk, we've already given tractors to the prison service, and we are going to make sure that we give all the support for them to do well. Let's remember that our compatriots, friends and brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers who are in prison are not devils. Well, the law has caught up with them. They are there. Our hope is that they will come up reformed and better engaged and prepared to contribute to our development. And we are going to ensure that we do that. We are also going to reform the prisons services, and happily the new Chief Justice is also committed to helping in dealing with non-custodial services, sentences for offenders. Together, I'm sure, we'll make a better prison service, better police service, better immigration service, better National Peace Council, better citizens of Ghana, and united in peace.
On the 4th of April, on the night of the 4th of April 2015, some inmates at the Kumasi prison or central prison attempted a jailbreak. Now, we understand that in the course of their action, they actually affected some of the walls. As we sit here, some of the walls around the prison service have developed cracks, and they have built a perimeter made of wiring mesh to give it some level of fortification. We want to ask you, we understand that this is not the best way to go about it. What is your commitment or your office commitment to ensuring that security at the Kumasi Central Prison is nowhere undermined? Because we also understand that recently the collapse of that wall was as a result of the weak foundation around that particular area.
Well, thank you very much. As a matter of policy, let me reiterate the position that we are going to make sure we improve the services, improve the prisons. But you are now going to operational matters. And operational matters are such that I don't want to specifically comment. Let I give myself out the things. That is for the prisons to say. But for now, you have said that they are making attempts to fortify it, and we are going to do so in the terms of the best international practices.
Now to agriculture. The minority in Parliament on Wednesday asked government to stop the sale and revert to the free fertilizer distribution policy implemented by the Mahama administration. Minority spokesperson on agriculture, Eric Opoku, who addressed the news conference, challenged the chief executive officer of Cocoa Board to make public funds accrued for the stabilization fund.
Minority spokesperson on agriculture Eric Opoku expressed disappointment. The NPP administration has replaced the cocoa fertilization program, which included free fertilizer to farmers. Farmers are currently paying 80 cedis for a bag of fertilizer.
Under the free fertilization program, the cocoa farmer was entitled to 7.5 bags of granular fertilizer or 2 liters of liquid fertilizer per every hectare of cocoa farm. So a farmer who has 100 hectares of cocoa farm was given 750 bags of fertilizer free of charge. Today, under President Akufo-Addo, Bawumia government, the same farmer is to pay 60,000 Ghana cedis for the same 750 bags of fertilizer. This has exposed the Ghanaian cocoa farmer to intolerable levels of penury.
The group also indicated the producer price committee should be allowed to determine the price of cocoa and not the chief executive officer of the cocoa board, and asked cocoa board to make public the accrued stabilization funds. The minority therefore urged government to be sensitive to the plight of cocoa farmers in the country by halting the sale of fertilizer.
So we're still staying on the story, and this afternoon I do have William Ijaponkwe, Deputy Minister for Agriculture. Good afternoon, sir, and thanks for agreeing to speak with us.
Good afternoon.
Now, minority in Parliament is asking government to stop the sale of cocoa fertilizers and revert to the free fertilizer distribution policy implemented by the Mahama administration. Now, is your government selling cocoa fertilizer?
Hello.
Can you hear me, sir?
Not quite well.
Is it better now?
Yes.
Now, earlier on, I was asking that the minority in Parliament is asking government to stop the sale of cocoa fertilizers and revert to the free distribution policy, which was implemented by the former president's administration. Is your government selling cocoa fertilizer?
We intend to sell cocoa fertilizer. Yes, we are going to sell cocoa fertilizer, but it's not started yet. Any fertilizer on the field being sold is not part of government cocoa that we are bringing now. But we will be selling the cocoa to cocoa farmers at subsidized price.
Now, there were arguments that farmers benefited greatly from the free fertilizer distribution policy. So why a change now?
Why a change now? That policy was NDC's policy. The government in power today is the new patriotic party. We all have our dreams, we all have our ambitions, and so our policies are different. You see, in their policy, they say that they were distributing fertilizers. Let's take this scenario. There are 100 cocoa farmers with 100 acres. Government budget is only able, in their policy, government budget is only able to buy 45% of the total budget, of this total fertilizer requirement. 100 farmers, maybe let's say 100 acres, and government buys only 45. So we are going to distribute 45 among the 100 people, 100 farmers. What do you think will happen? Chronism, relatives, friends, everything. And that's what happens. So some people get a fertilizer if you have a party card. Others do not get. And if others do not get, what happens? We don't get the required or targeted production level that we want. NDC said they were giving fertilizer for free. Did we ever enter into the 800,000 metric ton zone? No. For the last 3 years that they've been giving fertilizer for free, Ghana has remained at the 700,000 metric tons zone. We never entered into the 800,000 metric tons. So why should it still stay there? The distribution system, did anybody go out there to check to see whether farmers really got a fertilizer? If they said we were buying about 2.something million bags of fertilizer, who was at the place there to check whether these quantities of fertilizer were really brought into the country?
Okay, now, Honorable, sorry to really cut you there, you've mentioned that you will change that. How soon are you going to do that? And have you been able to meet as Deputy Minister or as your ministry with farmers to explain some of these reasons why you're giving for selling the fertilizer, which you will do?
Yes. The ministry is mainly for policy development. That has been done. Cocoa Board, we have met them. And so Cocoa Board is really in charge of operations. So the research department of Cocoa Board and the Cocoa Extension Department have met farmers. Myself, I have met farmers on several occasions. Even yesterday, I was at a meeting of Amajaro, meeting over about 300 to 500 farmers within my constituency. So they invited me as a guest speaker, and anytime I meet cocoa farmers, I bring to the fore the plans and objectives of this government concerning cocoa. And I keep mentioning this, that it's unfortunate that we are not going to distribute fertilizer for free, but because if you do, what happened in the NDC area is what is going to happen. You don't have the budget to meet the total quantity of fertilizer that will serve the need of every farmer. And once you don't have that, you cannot distribute fertilizer for free.
And when will this be implemented?
Definitely, you are going to distribute according to the people that you think should benefit. Okay? And usually it's just about 45% of the total requirement of fertilizer. So why don't you use the amount, the money meant for that 45% to serve as a subsidy to every cocoa farmer?
Well, so when will this be implemented?
The price of cocoa fertilizer that is supposed to be at 140 Ghana cedis is being reduced to 80 Ghana cedis, and every farmer is expected.
You've made that point very clearly, Honourable. When will this be implemented?
As a subsidy and apply to your farm. Hello?
Can you hear me, Honourable? I'm asking that briefly. When will this be implemented?
No, this year, right now. So the budget, the fertilizer that the NDC, the total amount that the NDC is talking about, saying that they budgeted for this amount of money to buy fertilizer for distribution. You see, my dear sister, let's get it in context. If you budgeted, a budget is an anticipation. They also budgeted for $2,800 per ton of cocoa.
Okay, Honourable, I think you didn't get me clearly. I asked that. You've made that point very clearly, but I'm asking specifically, you said this year, but are there specific timelines that this will be implemented?
From within this month, the fertilizer has just been cleared from the port and distribution. I speak to you.
All right, well,
yes, distribution is being lifted. I mean, fertilizer is being lifted from the port to various districts.
All right.
The farmers will be expected to go and buy them.
Thank you, Honourable William Ijaponkwetu. He is the Deputy Minister for Agriculture. We move on to other stories, now to health. And one of our headline stories, Ghana is unable to detect between 25,000 and 35,000 new tuberculosis cases annually due to inadequate resources and infrastructure. According to the program manager of the National TB Control Program, Dr. Frank Bonsu, this could affect Ghana's quest to end tuberculosis by 2030.
Ghana's national TB program has adopted a number of strategies to ensure the country meets its target of ending TB. Currently, Ghana is detecting around 15,000 new TB cases instead of between 40 and 50,000 new cases annually. But Dr. Bonsu says the National Control Program is handicapped in its control effort.
Our capacity to find all the TB cases is limited by resources, by infrastructure, by human resource. So as I speak, we are able to find around 15,000 new TB cases. So what happens to the rest? So there is a problem, and this is why we are talking about under-resource.
Dr. Bonsu noted, though Ghana has the requisite equipment to fight TB, they are limited and cannot cover the entire population.
The capacity and the know-how is there. The technologies is in country, but the coverage of the technology to accelerate ending the epidemic is what we are constrained.
TB ambassador Nana Ehunambobrim Prajen Simdev Safe expressed concern over the lack of commitments from government.
Governments must demonstrate seriousness. They must realize that the team needs resources. Tuberculosis is not just an urban disease. It's more prevalent even in the rural areas. And you cannot expect that civil servants will jump on a bus or use their own cars, which they don't have.
Persons Mining Ghana Limited presented 215,000 Ghana cedis to support the TB control program.
Tuberculosis is something that we know that is a disease which can be eradicated, but it needs a lot of resources to do that. Education is key and various things.
TB is a contagious infection that usually attacks the lungs. It can also spread to other parts of the body, like the brain and the spine. It is caused by a type of bacteria called Mycobacterium tuberculosis.
On to other stories, and the Supreme Court has declared the transfer of the 2 Guantanamo Bay detainees to Ghana as unconstitutional. My colleague Salom Amenya sat through proceedings, and he will be joining us shortly to give us updates on what exactly happened and if indeed this is a final ruling for what proceeded in court. So over to you, Salom.
In a case where 2 Ghanaian citizens, that is Margaret Bamford and also Henry Nana Boakye, were challenging the stay of 2 Yemenis who were actually ex-Guantanamo Bay detainees. That is Mahmoud Umar Mohammed bin Atef and Khalid Mohammed Salih Al-Dube, who arrived in Ghana on January 6, 2016, and they were meant to actually stay here for 2 years, and they were challenging their stay. And today, the Supreme Court is saying that the agreement that the government of Ghana entered into with the government of the United States of America was unconstitutional because it needed ratification from Parliament, and they should have voted on it, where a 2/3 majority should have agreed to them being transferred to Ghana before they were brought in. So this means that that particular agreement, because it was not sent to Parliament, is unconstitutional. That is what the Supreme Court is saying. The Supreme Court is also ordering that within 3 months, that agreement should be sent back to Parliament or should be taken to Parliament for Parliament to work on it. If not, failure to do so, then they are supposed to send these 2 ex-Guantanamo Bay detainees back. We have here the lawyer, that is lawyer Nana Boakye. He's here with us, and also the complainant, that is Henry Nana Boakye. So the plaintiff, they are here. So we'll be speaking to him briefly. We'll be speaking to him. But apart from that particular issue too, what the Supreme Court has also done today is to give judgment on what we call the findings and orders from the sole commissioner. I'll just have to box that two together whilst we wait to speak to the lawyer who actually did the case for Margaret Bamford and also Henry Nana Boakye. And what the Supreme Court is saying is that it was a 7-member Supreme Court panel and presided over by Chief Justice Sophia Ekufu, and they shut down the findings of the sole judgment commissioner, that is Justice Yarapo. And then the Supreme Court is saying that on conclusions he reached when his commission considered the cases between Alfred Woyome versus AG and Sky Consort versus Ghana Post. The Supreme Court says the recommendations of the sole judgment commissioner sought to give interpretation to a decision of a court, and that amounted to a breach of Article 125 and also 127. So, lawyer Nana Boakye is ready. Let's speak to him. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you very much for joining us on TV3 Midday Live.
Thank you, sir.
You must be excited.
Oh, I'm very excited. I mean, I'm very happy today. Another success which is meant to advance our democracy has been attained. And so I'm extremely grateful. Democracies are not built overnight. It takes true errors on the part of human beings who are involved in the helms of affairs. Obviously, we are all fallible. And when these fallibilities do arise, there is the need for us to go to the people in whom the judicial power has been vested in to make a pronouncement on them. So that going forward, there will be clear guidelines as to how we conduct the affairs of the state, which is the distinction between a democracy and a military rule. And that is exactly what has happened today. I'm very happy. I mean, the Americas, the United Kingdoms, and other advanced democracies, we all see and appreciate. You know, the things they do that we appreciate, they never happened overnight. It took decisions like these. For instance, the decisions of Midday versus Madison, and so many decisions that made America what it is. And so I'm very happy. I think that we are going places, and I'm so grateful to God that democracy that was embraced in 1992 is being advanced in various ways through individual efforts, you know, aside what is being done at the level of government by parties such as Nana Boakye and Mrs. Margaret Bamford. And so I'm extremely grateful. You're also playing your part. It's also beautiful. We should continue, through such actions in court, to correct errors on the part of state actors, for the advancement of our democracy and its entrenchment.
All right, thank you very much. Well, so you heard all for yourself. Lawyer who actually handled the case for Nana Boakye, that is Henry Nana Boakye, and then Madam Margaret Banfo. So that's all from us here at the Supreme Court. I am Salom Amenya for TV3.
Thank you very much indeed, Salom, for that update from the court. Remember, we'll be following this story closely and also bringing some more updates in our subsequent bulletins. You're still watching Midday Live. But let's move on to other stories. One story that has been trending and is also one of our headline stories, which has to do with oil in our country. And we're getting some figures that have been done by the Ghana Institute of Governance and Security on oil production so far in our country. And according to them, in 2016, about 28,000 million barrels of oil was produced from the Jubilee field and 10 fields, and over 2 million came from the 10 fields, out of which Ghana had no allocation. And this afternoon, I do have in the studio Kojo Poko. He is an energy expert. We're going to look at issues that have been raised so far regarding our oil production. Good afternoon, Kojo.
Hi, good afternoon.
And thanks for your time. And well, thank you. Now, would you say that the euphoria that greeted the news of our oil production, there was so much noise and energy about it, has it lived up to its expectations?
Well, yeah, it has brought Ghana to the limelight in terms of the oil industry. It has brought quite a number of companies to Ghana. It would have lived to the euphoria in one part of it. Yesterday, there was a seminar held by a Petroleum Commission, and I texted a friend that, we had 10 years of Ghana finding oil. And what the person said is, yes, but we are still broke. You know, the average feeling of every Ghanaian is that we have not seen the impact of the oil find on our daily lives. We still have certain things that were happening in this country that still happen financially 10 years on from oil. So yes, the euphoria...
Are you saying that no change at all?
Well, there is some changes. I'm saying the euphoria would be true in some sector where it has lived to expectation, but in some areas it hasn't. I mean, in areas where local content, where Ghanaians are actually working in some of these companies, there are a lot of Ghanaians working in the industry. There was a company called Amada Hess Petroleum, which is from America, and when the country director gave a presentation, he said that he's the only expert in the country. All his staff are Ghanaians. So it tells you that in the area of creating wealth or creating jobs for Ghanaians, it's lived to expectation. But in the financial terms, look, before oil was found, our cedi, the currency, was always depreciating. 10 years on, that hasn't stopped. We are always doing budgets with donor funding. 10 years on, that hasn't stopped.
Is it that we expected too much?
Well, no. It was really we knew what we were getting ourselves into because other countries have done it. The Norwegians came to help us. We listened, but we didn't act fast enough. You know, a lot of things were not done early. Petroleum Commission, which monitors the industry, was set up about 4 or 5 years after the find. It was set up in 2010, operational 2011. So you realize that, yes, we knew what we were getting ourselves into, but the action of the politicians and the public servants to get our country ready was delayed. So a lot of the things we are now playing catch-up. Things that we were warned of that, look, do not play catch-up because you know what is coming. But it's still not late because there are still more developments to come. And as a country, we should learn from the 10 years of mistakes to make sure that the next 10 years is a success. Now,
there are some analysts who have always been critical of the way contracts were done, claiming that Ghana could have benefited more. You just mentioned that Norwegians came, we listened, but we didn't act fast enough. Is it still too late?
Well, it's not. Then it was, I've always held, I was one of the few companies that were there in 2001, 2002, that when this whole thing started. Look, it will be difficult to do the carrot and sticks where you give more sticks then. Because Ghana, whenever we go to oil conferences, and you say you are from Ghana holding a card in oil and gas, everybody laugh at you, okay? Because Ghana was not known for an oil country, and it was an industry, as was said yesterday at the conference, most of the oil finds or the exploration has been negative. Nothing was fine. And guess what? We've been doing explorations before the 1900s, okay? So we've been doing exploration for over 100 years before we found oil. So all the companies that came, Philip in the 1970s, all found nothing. So you realize that when a company comes in the early 2001, 2002, you couldn't give stringent policies. You have to give a bit of leeway to entice them to come. Cosmos and the likes of Tulu were enticed with softer fiscal policies to be able to come in. Now that they came and we have found the oil, now Ghana is at a point where we are talking about bidding, where we are going to basically get companies to now express interest, and we are going to bid. We couldn't do bidding in 2001 because you need to start from somewhere. So yes, maybe the policies that were in place, or the fiscal policies and the regime, the PNC Law 84, which was before the new petroleum law, were not as up to scratch as it is now. But it's a learning curve. And I think like I said, we've done 10 years of mistakes. We can now build on that mistake and have 10 years of success.
Now, talking about mistakes, one thing that will not go away is the tracking device that came up over and over again when the FPSO Kwame Nkrumah was constructed and commissioned, which gave the impression that we could not do proper monitoring. One would ask that, again, we go back to your statement at the beginning. How did we miss this?
Well, it's not that we don't have a tracking. It's a flow measure. It's a flow meter, okay? Now, in other countries, the development is done in such a way that you have subsea pipelines that brings all your crude to an onshore station. So you have a company like Standard Board, which are supposed to be doing this, to build a flow meter and gauge how much oil is coming to your storage. Because we basically did our development FPSO based, the first FPSO that came in was the FPSO in Nkrumah. Now, people are saying that the flow meters on them are not standardized by our people. Well, yes and no, because what it is that whatever everybody lifts, GMPC will lift, Tulu will lift, all the Jubilee partners lift. So when it's your time to lift, whatever is in the parcel is what you sell. So GMPC also, we also benefit from that same thing. It's not like when it's time for GMPC to lift the oil, the flow meter is changed. So yes, there is a problem with the flow meter on board the FPSOs, and there's been talks of having to regulate some of these flow meters. But that all can be solved by having subsea pipelines. And some of us have proposed to the ministry that going forward, maybe Amada Hair's exploration find is a bit too late, but subsequent finds, we should have a storage onshore. Then all the crude oil is piped to the storage. Okay. Then we can have the flow meter to gauge those things and check some of these things.
Now, you mentioned that you've been talking or interacting with the ministry. Are they listening? And 10 years from now, what do we do to ensure that we don't come back and talk about the same problems and the same mistakes again?
Well, one of the things that I've been talking about that nobody's listening is there is this thing with how contracts are paid out. Okay, let me give an example. There's been over $15 billion worth of contracts given. Now, we all know that every year when our city is having problems, the cocoa syndication loan will come in and the city will stabilize, or government will go and do a bond and the city will stabilize. What I have been arguing is that the government should have a law which says that every contract given out by these oil companies, 20% of that money should be paid out in cedis. So the $15 billion that has been paid, 20% of 15 billion will be paid out in cedis. That means that that dollar is brought into our central bank to show up our currency. Until government take this advice, we will constantly, because look, there are various benefits that come to us as a country. One of the big currencies that you have is that oil producing countries have stronger currencies. Ghana, we are an oil producing country, but we don't have a strong currency. And the only way we can have a strong currency is if we start domiciling some of our payments. So oil company giving a contract out to anybody in the world, since it's a contract being issued for an oil contract in Ghana, 20% of that should be domiciled in cities. Those things will help. And other things as well, accounts with indigenous banks, some of those things we are trying to get the government to listen, but hey, it's a work in progress.
All right. Thank you so much,
Thank you very much.
He's an energy expert, and we're looking at our oil industry. Away from that, let's move to the presidency, where President Akufo-Addo is excited democracy and respect of human rights have found their place in Africa. At a lunch meeting with members of the International Democratic Union at the Flagstaff House, the president called for strengthening of democratic principles.
The International Democratic Union is a working association of over 80 consecutive Democrat and like-minded political parties of the center and center-right. The group, which was hosted by the NPP, held a 3-day executive meeting and standing committee on foreign affairs in Accra. Deputy Chairman of IDU, Tony Clement, lauded Ghana for the conduct of the December elections and the NPP for the victory.
Your election was like a thunderclap for us in the movement. We were so delighted for success and the success of the party, and we share with you the hopes and aspirations of the Ghanaian people as you move forward with your agenda.
President Akufo-Addo said strengthening of democratic principle is key to enhancing good governance.
For the first time in the 42-year history of ECOWAS, all 15 member countries have democratically elected leaders. This is an indication that democracy, equality of opportunity, and respect for human rights, ideals which have stood the test of time, have now found firm anchor in our collective body politic. But the war to build a better world by strengthening freedom and democracy and improving the living standards of the citizenry is far from over. It is for this reason that the Ghanaian people, dissatisfied with their living conditions and unhappy with the direction in which the country and indeed the economy was headed, voted decisively for change on 7 December 2016 by the overwhelming victory they conferred on the MPP and my modest person.
Now, the outgoing ambassador of the Kingdom of Norway to Ghana, Hege Hesberg, wants well to learn from the interreligious coexistence of Ghanaians. The ambassador was at the presidency to bid farewell after 4 years of service.
The outgoing Norwegian ambassador was grateful for the cooperation between the two countries on the Oil for Development program. She praised Ghanaians for their interreligious coexistence.
The way people live at peace with each other. I don't know how many I have said who says that they celebrate Christmas and they celebrate it, and that makes two parties and not only one. And this attitude towards working together across the religions is something we lack in the world and we lack in Europe. And your experience of this is something we need to learn from.
President Akufo-Addo lauded her effort in helping deepen relations between the two countries.
But we're grateful for the contributions that your country has made to our development. There's a new paradigm here in Ghana, which is about how we want to depend more and more on ourselves and lift ourselves up by our own strength and capacity and ingenuity. Your country is one of the countries we're looking at very closely as a model, as an inspiration of how a poor developing country like Ghana can maximize its potential.
Still at the presidency, the outgoing Burkina Faso ambassador Clement Somme-Touare also bid farewell to the president after a 3-year service. She praised Ghana for her support for Burkina Faso in the areas of mining and handicrafts. President Akufo-Addo called for effort at deepening relations between the two countries.
We continue to look for closer and closer ties. You are our northern neighbor, so our destinies are linked. And whatever we can do to strengthen the relationship between our two countries, on our side, we're prepared to do it. Necessity for us to work together to control the movement of the water and the spillage of the dam. It's extremely important for us in Ghana.
Now to health, and we bring you medical notes.
When we say uterine fibroid, we're talking about non-cancerous growth in the uterine wall, right, in the uterus. Such a growth, then we tend to say that she has a uterine fibroid or with myoma. It has been noted that when women don't get pregnant for a long time, that is, they get into their 30s to their 40s before their first pregnancy, you tend to have more of this uterine fibroid developing. It appears to have a genetic implication, that our makeup make us more predisposed to have uterine fibroids. Depending on where within the uterus you have the fibroid located, it could interfere with pregnancy. First of all, those that are located somewhere near where the tubes are inserted into the uterus, they could technically apply some compression and block the lumen. Also, depending on where they are located, those near the endometrium or the inner wall of the uterus, they could make that area quite hostile to implantation. So whenever there is a pregnancy, where the pregnancy is supposed to adhere becomes quite unfavorable, and such pregnancies won't stay to some extent. Some could have recurrent abortions.
And there's more tomorrow. Do join us. We start with our stories now. In a 7-member Supreme Court panel presided over by Chief Justice Sophia Kufu has shot down findings of the sole Judgment Debt Commissioner, Justice Yawapew, on a Supreme Court judge himself, who is also a Supreme Court judge himself, on conclusions he reached when his commission considered the cases Alfred Woyome versus AG and Sky Consort versus Ghana Post. The Supreme Court says the recommendations of the sole Judgment Debt Commissioner sought to...
Agenda now shows on Sundays at 3 p.m. only on TV3 and is supported by 3FM 92.7 Accra.
A news anchor with style
and professionalism
must be someone you can trust, someone you can relate to,
someone you can bond with, and with real experience.
That is who we are.
That is who we are.
That's who we are. That's who we are.
According to them, this is the second time that this has happened to people who live here. But for how long can they continue to endure flooding in these areas?
To make sure that Accra becomes the cleanest city.
Trials on idea and then, of course, attack on public officers. I have no idea as to what
we get it to you first. This is TV3 News.
Segment is brought to you by
Thanks for staying. The second Electricity Company of Ghana Private Sector Participation Bidders Conference is expected to take off in August. The conference will see bids for the concession submitted for a concessionaire to be selected by the end of June. Outgoing Country Director of the Millennium Compact Corporation, Deirdre Fair-James, says despite the challenges within the energy sector, Ghana will thrive in its power distribution.
The Millennium Development Authority, MIDA, recently shortlisted 6 companies under the concession for the private sector participation of the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, at the first bidders conference. The Ghana Power Compact aims at improving the performance of Ghana's power sector to unlock the country's economic potential, to create jobs and reduce poverty. As part of the project, the second bidders conference will be the next step to select the concessionaire.
Also looking at rolling out additional procurement opportunities. There'll be a second bidders conference, and the bids for the concession should be submitted later this year, and also they should be able to select a concessionaire by the end of the year. And then hopefully by end of 2018 that concessionaire will be in place.
Outgoing country director of the Millennium Compact Corporation at the U.S. Embassy, Deidre Fair James, remains optimistic on progress made in Ghana's energy sector and says it will thrive and serve the needs of the economy. Government has amended terms of the concession agreement to require that Ghanaians own at least 51% of the concession. There should be no involuntary layoffs as a result of the concession, and the term of the concession will be reduced from 25 years to 20 years. Following the agreement in the compact, there will be some repercussions if financial closure is not achieved by September 2018.
The way that the compact is, the way that the CP that was mutually agreed as part of the compact and passed by Parliament is written that if financial closure is not achieved by September 2018, then the compact decreases by $190 million. We've made some progress over the last couple of months, and I expect that we'll continue to make progress and see an energy sector that is thriving and vibrant and serves the needs of households and businesses, because without that, it's very difficult to have a thriving economy.
That's all for business. We have sports next.
Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3newsgh for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3newsgh and at 3sportsgh. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment.
My name is Dr. Michael Ejekumadu, the CEO of Mikado Holdings, formerly Kama Group of Companies. Join me this Monday, 26th of June 2017, on time with the captains with Pakwesi Asare, as I engage with students, live on TV3.
Sports Station shows every Monday at 9 p.m. on TV3 and is brought to you by Cowbell, Our Milk, Malta Guinness, and Betway.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Midday Live here on TV3. My name is Anako Jafre with the sports updates. We begin with boxing, where there is growing tension between the Ghana Amateur Boxing Federation and the Ministry of Youth and Sports after the national boxing team were denied funding by the ministry for the Africa Boxing Championship, which effectively limits the prospect of Ghanaian boxers at World Championships in Germany later this year. Anekia Mankwa and Pearl Ezinyam Efe have been exploring the issues at the heart of the controversy.
This feud highlights a running theme in the grievances that many sports bodies have against the Ministry of Youth and Sports, that they do not get the funding required for major tournaments. The Africa Championship in Congo would have served as qualifiers for the World Championship in Germany, but instead of Brazzaville, the boxers were at the Accra Sports Stadium today training. That is because the Ministry of Youth and Sports won't provide the money required for the trip. The ministry says there were too many discrepancies in the budget the Amateur Federation presented and have raised questions with how monies released in the past were not properly accounted for. Pius Hajide is the Deputy Minister of Youth and Sports.
We are using the people's money. When we give you money for a project, you need to properly come and account for it and retire it to justify your demand for more. A failure to do that would mean that we need to ask questions. We haven't seen any major program of amateur boxing development.
The National Amateur Federation disputes those claims. Its president, George Lamte, says the ministry must understand it has a responsibility to less funded sports like amateur boxing.
One of the issues is that we have not been organizing local boxing. It's never true. In Ghana, if we prepare our boxers very well, we can bring gold or silver or bronze. We have to spend on them, give them international exposure.
Meanwhile, while the bodies feud, the boxers stay at it in the gyms with no clue if their championship dreams have been dashed for good. The damage to their careers may be irreversible, according to coach of the side.
These things happens, and when it happens, it affects them in terms of they start to change their mind. They think of going to professional. It's making us taking new face into competitions.
Away from boxing, news from the Black Stars camp indicates they will leave for the United States of America on Friday after management of the team made changes to their travel arrangement. The team was initially set to fly out on Saturday, but the date has had to be tweaked in order to have ample time to prepare for the games. The four-time African champions will face Mexico on June 28 before playing USA on July 1. Coach Akwesiapia is expected to whittle down his squad to 23 before the two friendly games. And one man who will not be traveling with the Black Stars team is Emmanuel Ajiman Bedu. He says he is looking to engineer a move away from Udinese after 7 seasons at the club. The Ghana midfielder says there are no definite plans for a move from the Italian Serie A side yet, but he is convinced it is time to seek new challenges with the English Premier League, his preferred destination.
I still have contract with Udinese. I respect the team. I've been saying this all the time. It's a blessing club for Ghana players. You all know what the likes of Mohamed Gago, Stephen Appiah, Kwadwo Asamoah and Solomon Terry have done for the club. So I respect it. But I think it's time I need new challenges. I've been there for 6 to 7 years now. I think I have done my part for the team and I need new challenges. But in all, I have contract. Next 2 or 3 weeks, I will know my destination. I just need fresh challenges. So if it is in Italy or outside, I will grab that opportunity. That's every player's dream to play in England, and if an offer comes from there, why not? I will go.
And the hugely talented Ghanaian midfielder Kingsley Safo will undergo a medical with Swedish side Malmo on Thursday before completing a $1.5 million move to the UEFA Champions League campaigners. The IK Cyrus have finally agreed to release the player after Malmo improved their initial offer for the pacey winger and playmaker. Malmo made an initial offer of $1 million for the in-demand star, which was turned down by Cyrus, who claim the players' value is higher. The UEFA Champions League campaigners then improved the offer to 1.5 million and added that Cyrus will reap up to 30% from his onward transfer. Safo, who was said to have been targeted by several clubs in Europe, is delighted over the chance to further his career with a bigger club. He is wanted by Ghana coach Kwesi Appiah, while Swedish authorities want to fast-track his passport to enable him play for them. And now let's go on to our next story, which has to do with the CAF Champions League. And the CAF Champions League is still on. And on Wednesday, some major clubs progressed to the next level of the competition. USM Algiers, Libya's Al Ahly Tripoli, Etoile du Sahel, and Zanaco of Zambia all kept on course for the quarterfinals of the CAF Champions League with positive results, but the classic clash between Esperance and holders Mamelodi Sundowns ended goalless. That's all the sports here on Midday Live. My name is Anako Jaffe. Thanks very much for watching, and always a pleasure serving you. Back to you, Wendy.
Thank you very much indeed, Nana Kojo Afre. Next, we have international news.
Speaker of South Africa's parliament is to decide on whether members of parliament can vote on no confidence motion against the president by secret ballot. This follows the ruling by Constitutional Court that the Speaker of Parliament does not have the discretion to request a secret ballot in a vote of no confidence. The opposition called for a secret ballot in a vote of no confidence, but the Speaker, who is also a member of the ruling ANC, said there was no procedure. Mr. Zuma has faced mounting allegations of corruption and impropriety and faced criticism from within his own party. The Islamic State group has destroyed the iconic Al-Nuri Mosque and its leaning minaret. Iraq's Ministry of Defense said the mosque was destroyed when ISIS fighters detonated explosives inside the structures Wednesday. The minaret that leaned like Italy's Tower of Pisa had stood for more than 840 years. The mosque, which is also known as Mosul's Great Mosque, is where ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi declared a so-called Islamic Caliphate in 2014, shortly after Mosul was overrun by militants.
Entertainment news is brought to you by
And in entertainment this afternoon, most movie CD retail shops at the Opera Square here in Accra have folded up due to low patronage. In their place, we've seen some electrical shops, that's gadget retail shops, that have rather sprung up in their place. Also, Rai reports that one-time vibrant movie market is fast turning into a hub for electrical gadgets.
Opera Square hitherto was a one-stop shop for movie CDs. Retailers from across the country purchased their CDs from the movie CD distribution hub. Major shops like Danfo BA, Nyankonton Films, Silverline Films and Venus Films all operated from the movie markets. But most shops have folded up, with electrical gadget retail shops taking over.
Electrical people have taken over, and also looking at the price of the stores around here. Now, film producers don't have money like first. First, if a producer wants to go to a location, they'll come to marketers. They'll sit with them, and marketers will come out with some money. You go and shoot and come. Now, marketers cannot do it because our shops are closed down.
This place used to be a very hot spot where people came for their movie CDs and all. And 2015, some producers complained about the fact that Doomso was having a toll on the business and that people were not patronizing their work. But 2 years on, the situation has not changed. We realized that some of the shops have closed down, most of them actually. Let's walk you through a few of the shops. So this place, clearly you can see this used to be a shop where people came to get their CDs, but the place, there's nobody here, nothing happening. All you see are posters of movies, and so you can't actually find any CD here. I hear Silverline Production 2 used to be down there. Let's see what's happening inside that particular shop. So let's check what is happening. This used to be where Silverline Production operated from, and as you can see, the shelves are empty now.
Many other movie distributors have been forced out of business.
Then we have Idikoko's shop.
What's happening to that shop now?
And last time when I was, trying to find out from the wife, saying the patronage is poor.
But what really could be the cause of the nosedive?
They don't patronize our shops. Pirates are also killing us. Decoder stuff is killing us. Our people are taking their movies to the television station and so on for peanuts. So if I can get movie watch on my telly, why should I take money and go and buy a movie and come and sit down and watch?
They lamented the Mother Association of Producers, FIPAG, has done very little to salvage the situation.
They always keep on saying we are coming out with strategy. And the strategy which is not functioning, is like meaningless.
Some distributors are considering other business ventures.
It's hard. I'm looking at other options. Probably this same electrical business I may venture into.
I'm in the film industry. At the same time, I'm also planning how to escape to another business. I can't depend this as a family man. I can't depend on this. And how can my children and my wife survive? No.
But veteran filmmaker Abeku Segu says all hope is not lost. He thinks reintroducing the cinema system and shooting good content could salvage the dying industry.
We must also look at the possibility of reviving the cinema-going habit or culture. In the past, if you got a new girlfriend, your first place is to take her to Rex or Orion or Oxford. I just mentioned Silverbird as an example. Weekends when new films come, sometimes they are queues. The DVD is the last resort when you have finished, and TV are the last resort. Because if you take the film around country, people made good money from that.
Teen actor Abraham Atta has been named an ambassador for government's flagship program, Free SHS. Some Ghanaians have, however, been wondering why he has been made an ambassador for a project he's not directly going to benefit from.
Named the 15-year-old actor Abraham Atta as an ambassador for government's Free SHS policy. The actor appreciated the ambassadorial.
We do apologize for the loss of sound on that story. We'll bring that in our subsequent bulletins. And that'll be all for this afternoon. Thank you so much for watching Midday Live. I am Wendy Lai. Do have a blessed afternoon.